Now improve your English by answering an interesting question. If you want to get stronger, it's important to practice.
Hi, I'm Eric. Once again, it's time for speaking practice. Now, if you're watching this, maybe you already know speaking a foreign language is a skill. And with any skill, if you don't practice, you don't get better. Actually, you get worse. These videos, I think, are helpful for anyone, but they're designed to help anybody who is going to take the TOEFL English test in the future. Anyone who's thinking of studying in a university abroad. But really, they're useful for anyone. Practice is practice, like I say. Also, today's question is a different kind of question. Recently, it hasn't appeared on the TOEFL independent speaking section, but it's still good practice. It doesn't ask you to explain your opinion, it just asks you to give the advantages and disadvantages. So, let's watch. Are you ready?
Speaking practice, number 13. Today's question. Many students are asked to evaluate their professors at the end of the semester. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this? This is a pretty simple question, but there is one key word that is essential to understand, and that's evaluate. This means to judge someone or something, to say how good or bad you think it is. Usually, professors evaluate the work of students, but this time, we are asking if students should evaluate the work of their teachers. If you were to see this kind of question on the TOEFL, it would be an independent speaking question. You would have to explain the advantages and disadvantages, and you would have only 15 seconds to prepare your answer. Then you would have to speak for 45 seconds, giving details and examples, explaining your idea as clearly as possible in that time. Want to try? You know the question, so this is your chance to practice. Just pause the video for a few seconds and try. Then, when you're ready, let's take a look. Example answer. Students evaluating their professors has several advantages and disadvantages. For starters, one advantage is that it's a good way for prospective students to see which professor's lessons are effective. Students must feel a lot of anxiety thinking about their future careers and the high cost of tuition. So it might be a relief to know which professors they can trust. However, on the other hand, it might be a disadvantage if students give biased evaluations. In other words, the evaluation might not be accurate or honest if it's based on personal feelings. For example, if a professor has had bad relationships with a few bad students, he might receive a low evaluation even though his classes actually are very good.
So that was today's question and model answer. What did you think? Once again, we have a question that is asking you to think about education, about school life. Specifically, this time, it was asking you to consider the system in which students evaluate their professors, their teachers. Believe it or not, this is a very common topic. It appears again and again in many different places, so you should really be ready to answer this question. And like I said before, this kind of question is not like we've been doing before. It doesn't ask you to explain your opinion. You just have to list the advantages and disadvantages. And while this kind of question hasn't been an independent speaking question on the TOEFL recently, I think it's still good practice. I think it's kind of similar to the integrated speaking section, actually. Those questions ask you to listen to or read some information and then summarize what you understood. It doesn't ask you for your opinion. So maybe you should think about that when you're answering these questions. Anyway, I'm talking too much. In the next part of today's presentation, we have some good advice and some keywords that you should really learn. So let's get back to it.
Speaking pattern. This question is, once again, just asking you to compare the advantages and disadvantages of the topic. Don't mention your opinion. Just talk about each side of the topic. To begin, you start with a simple set phrase. Say the topic and then mention that it has several advantages and disadvantages. After that, you give details and examples for each side. To make sure that your speech has good topic development, you should follow in order, starting with the introduction, then completely talking about the advantages, and then finally talking about the disadvantages. When your speech is complete, it will follow in a logical and clear order, looking like this. That's very good, very clear. And just so you can see, this is how the pattern looks on the speech. Keywords. Today we were talking about the advantages and disadvantages of students evaluating their professors. These are the words that came to my mind when I considered the topic. First, we have prospective. This word describes someone who is thinking of joining or attending in the future. They are not a student yet, but they are thinking of becoming a student, or they are in the process of signing up. Bias. Bias is an unreasonable or unjustified feeling in favor of or against something. Prejudice. For example, if these two men walk into the restaurant at the same time, the staff will feel bias in favor of the man in the nice suit. They don't know who is richer or nicer, but they've made their judgment anyway. Next is anxiety. This word appears quite often, but students don't usually know what it means. It's a kind of very strong, intense feeling of worry. It's a worry that's so strong you can't ignore it or escape from it, like an illness. Finally, I mentioned tuition. It's the cost of attending a school or taking classes. It's the school fee. Maybe you knew this word already, but it's very important, so I'm mentioning it here. Hopefully your tuition is not too high, but depending on the school you go to, it could be really high. Keep up your practice. You need to try every kind of question to be ready for anything. Here's what's next. Some students work while attending university. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of having a part-time job while in school. Try this question on your own, and after you do, please check out the next video. Together, we'll get better and better until you finally can reach out and grab your victory.
And that's the end of today's presentation. I hope it was helpful. Talking about the advantages and disadvantages is not so difficult compared to the other questions. But I hope it makes you exercise your brain while talking about something you haven't thought about before or talked about before in English. Also, I know that many of you who are watching these videos must have your own ideas about the best ways to answer these questions. and that's really good. Please leave a comment below. It will start an interesting conversation and be very helpful to the other students. Come back and watch me next time as well. You need to get as much practice as possible. But before you do, make sure you push that like button below and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me a lot. Anyway, I'll see you next time.